Hello game makers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in this episode we will be covering a player menu so we can do things like cast spells from the villages or world map, as well as use our inventory or even quit the game. We also finally complete our travel spells as well and get them working. So let's get started. Okay, so hopefully this episode we can finish off our magic spells. Before we do that though, we are going to need a player menu. This is going to be something the player can access when he's not in battle. It'll display his hit points, magic points, gold, that kind of thing, as well as magic, inventory, and the ability to quit the game. That's what it's going to be used for. So to set this up, we are going to need to go into obj init, and in the create event, we need this text here. So ignore this for now. We're going to need a new enumerator, and this is just going to be the options we can choose from. And here is the text version of the options. We've got magic, inventory, and quit game. Okay, so once you've got that down, add this as well, global.ds magic list. What I decided to do is it made more sense to have a global list for the magic rather than having one in the battle spawner and one for the player. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into obj battle spawner, and we're going to delete this line in the create event because we don't need to create it anymore. It's going to use the global one. And in the step event, this one here, we're going to press Control Shift F, and we're going to search for DS magic list, and we're going to replace it with global. Oops. So I'm just going to check it one by one. Until there's no more. Just want to check the draw Gui event. Okay, cool. Alright, so you should have now replaced all of your DS magic list with global.ds magic list. We don't need to change anything else. That should all be working as properly. So once you've done that, we need to go into the step event, and we're going to add a new button for pressing start. And when you press start, it's going to open the menu, and you can either press start again to close it or the cancel button. Okay, so the next thing is in the create event of the player. We want to add this line, show menu equals false, basically whether we're going to show the menu or not. And then in the step event, just copy this down for now, this region. We're going to go inside this one here, show close menu. So if we are not showing the menu and the player is not disabled and we press start, then show the menu and stop the player from moving or doing anything else. And we're going to have a new variable called menu state and set it to menu. We're also going to have selected option and max options, which are going to perform the same duties as they do in the battle spawner object. This code is the same as the battle spawner code. It just grabs all the spells the player knows and puts them into a list. Otherwise, if we press start and we're already showing the menu, then close it and allow the player to move again. Once you've got that down, just minimize it and we're going to go into this one now, show menu. So pressing up and down work in the exact same way that the battle spawner does. If we're pressing OK, first of all we're going to be on the main part of the menu, and we'll be able to see magic, inventory and quit. So which are these options here. So we're going to be pressing OK on one of them. At the moment there's no code for inventory or quit game, so we're just going to be doing magic for now. So if the option is magic, set the menu state to magic, reset the selected option, and change max options to however many spells there are. So once you've got that, just minimize it. Okay, so before we go into drawing everything, we need to go into the create event of obj init, and I have reordered the enumerators based solely on how I want them to be displayed, so the order in that I want them to be displayed in the menu. And I need a text array for that as well, and we need just as many entries for the text array as there are for the enumerator, except for last. 3 of these entries have nothing, just like a blank string like this, because first of all, for the name, we don't want to display name and then the hero's name, we just want to display the name of the hero. And for HP max and MP max, these 2 stats are going to be drawn on the same line as HP and MP, so we don't need anything extra for them. If I just run the game, you guys haven't got this far yet, but I'm going to show you how everything is going to look before we do it. It looks like a bit of a dog's dinner, but hopefully you can see on the right how everything is ordered. It could probably do with a bit more spacing, but in general, this, it displays the stats and the value of them using a for loop. We make good use of the FA left and FA right settings for draw set H align. What all we're doing is we're picking a point on the screen, which is where the colons are, and anything we want to be drawn to the left of it, we use draw set H line FA right, and anything we want to be drawn on the right hand side of it, we use FA left, and that's how you can easily place stuff, place names and stats on the same level as each other without having to mess around with coordinates too much. So let's go into the code now. Okay, so now we can go into the draw GUI event of the player. Just copy all of this down for now. And when you've done that, we're going to open the draw player stats part of it, which is all of this. So all this code is doing is making sure we're placing the variables and stats on the right place that they need to be. Every time I try to explain things, it all goes horribly wrong, and I start to bore myself with the explanations, so I'm going to try and be brief. So we're setting the XX and YY here. The XX variable is pretty straightforward, it's just where the colon bit is. For the YY, when we are going through the stats, MP max and HP max, we want them to be on the same line as HP and MP. So we need to have some way of moving the YY coordinates back up to the previous place. Otherwise, if we just did YY equals start Y plus stats times font size, let's just run the game, I'll show you what happens. So look, there's a big gap between the HP, MP and attack, because the for loop is just increasing one by one, and we're not taking into account for the fact that MP max and HP max are on the same line. So This is what stat counter is for. It just increases by 1 every time we go through the for loop, and if it's MP max or HP max, we just decrease it by 1, and that stops us having the gap. Everything else is pretty much what I told you about before. We're just drawing things, the name of a stat to the left, and then, which is this bit, and drawing things to the right of the stat, which is this bit. Okay, so now we can minimize player stats, and you should already have this stuff down from before. So we're going to go into the menu region, and we'll open Magic as well, because this line here, draw text, Option X, YY text. This text is going to be showing, it could be showing anything from a spell to the name of an option like Magic, Quick Game, Inventory. And all we're doing is, if the menu state is menu, then we're going to set the text to one of the options. Otherwise, if it's the Magic menu, then we're going to check the player has enough Magic to cast the spell, and if he does, then we're going to draw the name of the spell in white. Otherwise, it's going to get drawn in red. But we don't actually draw anything until this line here. That's all this is for. So once you've got all this, I'm just going to maximize it and scroll down slowly. So once you've got all that, we can run the game. If you press start and press on Magic, depending on what spells you have set to known, the spells will come up. If you try and cast any spells, you'll probably get an error message because we haven't changed the scripts yet. That's the next thing that we're going to do. So if you go into SCR Heal, change it so it matches this. And we're going to make the OBJ notification object in a minute. Well, basically, if the player is trying to cast heal outside of battle, we need to use this code here, because we can't reference this anymore because it doesn't exist. And I don't know if you remember, but when we did the battle object, I had an object that was commented out called level up or something. All it did was display the message saying that you'd leveled up. What I decided to do was to leave it out and to bring in another object called OBJ notification. And every time something happens, like, you know, you cast a spell, or you fail to cast a spell, or you picked something up, or you leveled up, then we're going to have one object that displays that message, and that's what the new object is going to be for. So after you've got SCR heal down, go into SCR magic damage, and there's not much. I think it's just this bit that's changed. And once you have that down, make a new object and call it OBJ notification. Make sure that this turns from blue to red so that you know you spelled it correctly. And in the create event of the new object, you need this. So all this is for is it's going to display the message for 60 steps, and then it's going to destroy itself. Step event is just what I've explained. Basically, the timer increases. Once it gets to 60, it destroys itself. And the draw GUI we're just displaying the text that was set. For example, in heal, it'll display this. And this is the inside of the SCR magic damage script. Managed to leave this out of the first recording, so here we go. Before we can actually try these two spells out, we need to go back into OBJ player and the step event, and we're going to open the magic menu bit now. So minimize this. You want to copy down this bit. So if there's a spell to cast, get the spell ID, check the player has enough magic points. If he does have enough, then we're going to run one of these 4 spells. There's definitely a more elegant way to do this, but for simplicity's sake, I just did it like this. And then as soon as the spell's been cast, we're going to go back to the main menu. We have to make sure we reset. If we are going to go back to the main menu, then we need to reset selected option and the max options. And we also need to remove the cost of the spell. Otherwise, we don't have enough mana. And if there is a notification already, then just destroy it and tell the player he doesn't have enough magic. One thing I didn't mention previously is the reason we want to destroy OBJ notification is just to stop us getting loads of different notifications. We just want to make sure we have one at a time. So that's what this is going to do. And we may as well finish everything off in here by doing the cancel event as well. There's not a lot to it. So what this is for is, say for example, the player goes into a menu like inventory or magic, and he still wants to do something else, he can just press cancel and that'll take him back to the main menu. If the player presses cancel on the main menu, then he will quit the menu completely, just like pressing start would. So once you have all of this down, let's run the game. Just make sure it works. Just needs to rest first. Let's try and cast a magic dart. Okay, cool. Alright, so we're finally ready to get one of our travel spells working. We're going to do the exit spell right now. The first thing we want to do is inside OBJ init in the create event, make sure all your spells known by player set to true. Also make sure the player stats for HP and mana are set to maximum, just so you don't have to worry about that. We've also got a new enumerator called room types. It's got world map, village and dungeon. This is basically what type of room it is, and this is because we can only cast the exit spell if the room type is a dungeon. This global is going to track the type of room we are in, and we're also going to set this inside the creation code of every room. Last dungeon entry X and last dungeon entry Y, these are going to be set by our spawn objects just before we enter a dungeon, just so we know where to spawn back out to when we cast a spell. So now we're going to add the room types in our rooms. So RM world, creation code, make sure you've got this. For testing purposes, you might as well delete the spawn object from the world as well. RM village, creation code, make sure you've got this. And RM dungeon, creation code, make sure you've got this. And delete the spawn object as well. The next thing we need to do is inside our spawn object, we want to have a default dungeon entry like this. So most of them will have them set to -1, which means the player's going to ignore it. But if we go to the world map and we go to this one here and we set dungeon entry to the X and Y, the player's going to recognize it. It's going to set the global X and Y to that. So let's do that now. So obj player, step event. So inside monster spawn collision, this code here is new. So if the default is not -1, then just set the last dungeon entry X and Y to this, like so. And last of all, we need to update the exit script. So just make sure your script looks like this. So if the player exists, if there's a battle object but no battle, or there's no battle object at all, then we're in this bit. We need to check the room's part of a dungeon. If it is, then we'll cast a spell. Otherwise, then we're going to display notification. If we're in battle and we try and cast it, then we get this message. So now you have all that. Let's run the game. And we're going to try and cast it from the world map. And it doesn't work. So let's go to the dungeon. I'll go quite far. Probably this is far enough. Let's cast the spell again. And there we go. We're back to the dungeon coordinates. And now finally we can do the return script. It's actually very similar to the exit script. We're going to have some more variables inside obj init. Want to know the last room of the last inn we were at and the sleep coordinates. So when we set up the last inn X and Y, we need to give it some coordinates. So all I've done is I've gone into the village and I've gotten the sleep coordinates from our innkeeper, just because that's going to be the very first room of the game. So if the player doesn't sleep and he manages to level up and get the return spell and then cast it, I want him to return here. That's what it's for. Obviously there's going to be more villages and more inns, so the way we are going to update it going forward is in our goodnight object in the step event. We're going to update it here. So we're going to set the last in room to the current room, last in X to the sleep X, and last in Y to the sleep Y. And that's how we're going to update these coordinates. And last of all, in the script itself, so this is very similar to the exit script. Yes, there's definitely a way to just have one script that casts both spells, but it's going to take more time for you and for me, so I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. So all doing, making sure there's a battle object but no battle, or that there's no battle object at all. Making sure we're in the right kind of room, so the return spell can only be cast from the world map. Setting the player's warp X and warp Y to the last in X and Y. Stopping the player warping and moving the player to the inn. This is the same from the exit script, and this is what was there before for the battle. So now that we've done that, if we run the game, I'm going to go for a long walk now that all the monsters have been deleted from the world. Let's go in a dungeon and then let's cast exit. And then from the worlds we can now cast return. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so that's it for today. I'm glad we finally got to finish our spells off. I've got a bit more testing to do to make sure that everything works as intended, but I'll do that between now and the next video. One thing I wanted to show you was the roadmap I have planned for the whole series. So there's a couple of major things that we need to do yet, which is having a shopkeeper and inventory system, and that will allow us to complete the battle and play menu system as well. Once we've done that, we want to have some kind of boss that we talk to, and then we have a fight, and after we kill him, we complete a quest line and everyone tells us how awesome we are, you know, the NPC text. That's what this one will be about. We don't have any sound right now. The way we're going to do it is have one object that controls sound, just so we don't have to worry about any songs being stopped and started at the wrong time. We also need a save and load system, name creator. This little thing, I want to change the NPC text so that after we get to the last sentence and press OK again, then no text will be displayed, rather than just going back to the first line. That's an easy thing to fix, but it's on the roadmap anyway. The other major thing is objects we can interact with, like chests and cupboards to search. And these things here are things I've thought about, but I'm not sure whether to include them in the actual series or not. So the reason I'm showing you is you're the person watching this, you know. Your feedback is what's gonna mold the series really. So if you've got any suggestions or things you would like to see, or any improvements you think we could make, then let me know and I'll try and fit it into the series if I think it will work. But apart from that, thank you for watching. Bye for now.